Hello, America, and welcome to Teach the People. I am your host, Areshia McFarland. This week's guest is actress, writer, director, and author, Miss Cherie Johnson. Cherie is the former star of Punky Brewster and Family Matters. And this week, she's going to sit down and talk to us about what life in Black Hollywood is like in a pandemic. I want you to pull out your paper and look, listen, and learn as we welcome Cherie Johnson to Teach the People. Hey, Cherie, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to Teach the People. You look amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm in great company. You're beautiful.
Look at you, just being nice to an old lady.
Old lady bad.
Listen, so you're quarantined like the rest of us, right? Staying close to home. You look really good to be living through a pandemic. What are you doing to stay there? How are you maintaining the look?
You know what? I am so happy. My look is basically maintenance free. So I don't have to worry about no hair and nails. I don't got none. I got kids. You know what I'm saying?
You got two? You've got two, right?
Yes.
And daughters?
Yes, two girls.
How are they?
Girl, they're happy. My daughter told me today, I'm happy it's COVID. I like you home, mommy.
It feels like a vacation, right?
Yes. I usually don't get to spend a lot of time in my house, but I've been in my house since March 12th. It is now August 2nd.
I literally have been in the house since March 12th. That's so crazy. But here's the thing. I saw it coming. When Japan shut down their schools, I'll never forget it, on February 27th, I told everybody, get ready. The pandemic is coming and they're going to shut down this country. And everybody was like, no, that'll never happen. We don't do that kind of thing in the U.S. And look at us now.
What they did. I saw it coming too, and I went to Costco and I went to Sam's Club and I filled up the house.
I did too. I remember.
You did?
I did. I went to it's called Stop and Shop out here. And I mean, there was toilet tissue and paper towels for days. And I'm telling you, I stocked up. Bottled water, everything. I always say the Lord told me in advance what to get, and I got it. And I was sitting pretty when everybody, I had my Lysol, my Clorox, everything. People waited too late.
Well, they tripped me out too. I did go to the store at one time when there was nothing on the shelves, and people were like, "There's no Lysol." I was like, "But there's bleach and ammonia." People like,
that's right.
Anything with bleach and ammonia.
And let me tell you about Spray 9.
What is Spray 9?
See, nobody knows about it. It's the industrial cleaner. Look, they're gonna think they're paying me for a commercial, but they're not. So it is an industrial cleaner that cleans everything, and you can get it at Home Depot. Everything. It's a disinfectant. You can use. I use it to clean my tennis shoes and my toilet. You can do anything with it. It's amazing.
I'm on it. So I'm going to Lowe's because I'm boycotting Home Depot personally because of their stance with Trump.
Now, okay, since you put it out there. How so it's a lot going on in the climate. We're all trying to survive Corona to live till November.
Absolutely.
Are you willing to say where you're throwing your support?
It won't be at Trump. It'll be at anybody but Trump.
Anybody but Trump.
I mean, no, let me not say that either, because it ain't gonna be Kanye.
I know that.
Joe is gonna get my vote.
That's where is the common sense politics? Right? I'm sick of the far right and I'm sick of the far left. Where is just common sense government?
We don't have it. And we have no leadership.
We don't have no leadership. Well, so now when you think about where we are headed, or really, I guess kind of where we've been, when you think about all the social justice and uprising that's been taking place with the protest and the Black Lives Matter movement, do you think that we are at a point of change? Or do you think that this is a moment?
I think this is a really hard moment that will change things. Mm-hmm. I don't think that things are going to change right away, but what I do think now, a younger generation is looking at what their forefathers did. And we have a younger white generation that ain't feeling it. You know, there are our little white supremacists out there, but there's a whole generation of white kids who have realized that Black people cannot stop the injustice of Black people. We cannot control racism. That is on their backs. Though they did not start racism 600 years ago, they are the only ones who can correct it now.
They can put an end to it.
Yeah, I think they realize that, and I think they feel in their power. So I don't know for our generation if things will change, but definitely for my daughters.
Yes.
Those young kids ain't having it. And even the teenagers and the young white adults in their 20s, they're not having it. They don't appreciate it. And I think that it will stop. I hope that we live to see it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And the one reason that I think that we will see change is because these young white people, and even our age kind of white people, they at least acknowledge that the privilege exists, right? Absolutely. They will acknowledge that, yes, this is a privilege that I've been afforded, and I'm willing to back up and give that up. And I think what has happened with their predecessors before is they've not been willing to relinquish that privilege. Whether they were conscious or unconscious of knowing that this was a privilege that existed for them, they certainly weren't willing to give it up or share it or anything. So I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that that's one of the major reasons why we're seeing that shift. That's excellent. Yeah. Did you get out to protest at all?
No, I did not. Having two babies, you don't drag babies out to protest with you. But I'm so proud my brothers were out and some young people that I know, and I was like, thank you. I protested different. I was on the telephones.
Say it one more time. You did what?
I protest different. I was on the telephones. I was calling I'm the old lady who was calling the local government.
I love that.
Calling the White House, who was writing emails. That was my protest.
Call your congressman.
Yes. And
blast
them on social media, because that helps. I'm calling the congressman, so let me put the phone number out there so that 50 of my comrades can call the same time I do.
That's right. I love it when people will post up the information on social media, and you'll see it. They'll have like the person's email address, their phone number, the whole nine. And I will do that. I'll make those calls. I've done that before. Yes. I think that's great. I actually did go out to protest. I was scared to death because I felt like I could feel the corona in the air. So I didn't stay long, but I did. I got out there because I felt like, these young kids are out there sacrificing and doing all that. I could at least go for once. I did it one time, and that was enough for me.
That's amazing. Do you have children at home?
I don't have any small kids. I don't have any children at all of my own. And so I have 10 nephews though. And so I felt like it was a responsibility for me to do that for them, right? 10 African-American boys that have to grow up in this country under this current system. And I thought that it was really important for me to show my solidarity with it. I couldn't just sit at home and watch it on television, And now, granted, I was covered in my mask and I didn't stand close to anybody, and I tried not to shout too much, but I did feel like I had to get out there once.
Absolutely. I know that if I didn't have children, I'd have been out there too. But there's a whole lot of things that I probably would have done if I don't have kids.
Well, now that's another story. So let's talk about this. You were a child star and you have transitioned into a working actress and mother. How did you find the transition? How did you find it? Was it difficult for you, or was it seamless?
Well, the transition happened really slowly, and I don't think most people realized it. When I did Family Matters, I wasn't a kid. When the show ended, I was 26 years old.
Really?
Right. They just had us in that cheerleading uniform for 10 years.
Because black don't crack. That's amazing. 26.
Yeah, so I was an adult when the show ended. And it took me a year. I was going on audition after audition after audition. Of course, nobody was giving me a job. And finally, the Parkers gave me an opportunity. So that was my first job that was kind of, freeing, where I got to play. I was still a young adult on the show.
Yeah.
But it was my first job I felt as an adult.
I was a stand-in on the Parkers.
Really?
I was for almost 3 seasons. It was fun.
Was it a season that I worked?
Let me think. Maybe you might have been on an episode then. Now, as I think back to it, probably.
Wow.
I know.
See how small the world is?
And look, how far I've fallen. No,
not at all. The Parkers was a really fun show for me. And then I went on. I got to do the Eve show. And after that, I realized that, I don't really like auditioning all the time because statistically you get one job out of 100 auditions.
Yep.
And so I didn't want to leave my career in someone else's hand. I was tired of playing the nice girl, the sweet girl next door. It's kind of who I am, and it was getting really boring. I wanted to do something more daring, so I started producing.
So you are a writer and a producer, I read. Is that right? So tell me about some of the work that you have both written and produced.
I started out on a film with Dion Taylor and Brian Hooks, and it was called Dead Tone. And then I went on to do my show, I Do, I Did.
I Do, I Did.
And yes. And most recently, I had a like an interview show called Girlfriends and Champagne, which I was one of the producers and the writers. And now I have put all my attention into doing Cherie's World podcast.
Cherie's World podcast, which is very good. And anybody who hasn't listened should go and take a listen because you got some really great interviews. I was so excited to see the interview with you and Kelly Williams.
Oh,
yes. That was really, it was good to see you all back together and what the wonderful things you all had to say about Michelle, of course. It was great because you always wonder when you see people as friends on shows, you wonder, oh, were they friends in real life? You know, how did they get along? And so you could tell that you all were really friends.
Oh yeah, I mean, we grew up together.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell people when it comes to Punky Brewster or Family Matters, when you put kids together, one or two things are going to happen. They're going to love each other or they're going to hate each other. We have a real family matter. Like we're all glued together for the rest of our lives.
Now,
that's my thing.
Isn't Family Matters, didn't they not have a series finale for that show?
We did not on Punky Brewster or Family Matters. For whatever reason, both shows fell on the end of a writer's strike. And so our writers were not able to go in and kind of finish the shows.
Which means it actually leaves you primed for a reboot for both shows.
Absolutely. And Punky's coming back.
Punky is coming back. So are you excited about that like I am?
You know what? I am so elated. It's like, you know how they say your life totally goes full circle?
Yep.
This is my full circle moment. First of all, Soleil and I did this thing. She was 5, I was 6 when the show started. We never even realized what we were doing, honestly. We did not know that people were going to remember us 38 years later. And to be able to go back and work with that beautiful girl who I met when she was 5 and she still has the same exact spirit. And we literally grew up together, you know, but now we're going back as women, still growing together, to show the world all over again, to spend time with people who grew up with us is the biggest. I cried every day when we shot the pilot, every single day. Soleil and I were in tears, and it was grateful tears because we just couldn't believe that we were there again.
We were back.
Yeah.
Did you all keep in touch over the years?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
That is excellent. So you remain friends, and then to be able to come back together and work together on this show, do you feel like the show has the same spirit that it had 38 years ago, or are we going in a whole new direction?
It has the same spunk and the same spirit, but it has different energy. You know, George Gaines is gone, who played her father. Susie Garrett is gone, who played my grandmother. So we don't have them, but you will feel them. Like we felt them on set, but we have this new energy because there's kids on the show. So the kids bring a new joy and a new energy to the show, which is awesome because it reminds us of who we were when we started.
That's cool. So now over the years since you left, since Family Matters ended and obviously after Punky Brewster ended, have you found that you said that, you know, you auditioned a lot and got exhausted of that? Was it a lack of roles that you felt like you wanted to embrace, or was it a lack of opportunity and selection?
Both.
Yes.
You know, only 3% of Black actresses my age, there's like 350,000 of us in the union, and only 3% of us are working at the same time at any given time. So first of all, I'm never going to play a nanny. I'm never going to be a housekeeper. I'm not going to be a concubine. There's just certain things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to take my clothes off unless it changes my generations of my family.
Right.
So there's not a lot out there for me.
You know, you are preaching a word to me. Now that just spoke to my spirit, and I'm going to tell you why. So I've been in the union since 2001. And one of the things that I realized, I spent about 7 years out in LA before I moved to New York. And, you know, you study and you work and you study and you work and, you know, you're working 50 million jobs trying to keep a roof over your head. And one of the things I realized very early on was that I was not desperate enough. Right? There were certain things that I just wasn't willing to do.
Absolutely.
You know, the video vixen thing, God bless those ladies, because, you know, I know they work hard, but that wasn't going to be for me. I couldn't be scantily clad. I wasn't going to be overly sexual. Like it just wasn't going to line up for me. And I remember when I made the choice to move to New York, one of the things I said was, you've got to know what your limit is, right? Like I think everybody's always got to have that number in your head. like where's where I draw the line? And if you don't have that, you really will become desperate. But
Yes.
enough of my soapbox. So think about this. When you look at other child stars, and we don't have to name anybody, but a lot of times they don't survive the transition, and certainly not as smoothly and as beautifully as you have. But where is an area that you think that what could have changed? What could have been different? Or what sort of protections do you think could have been put in place when you were younger and you were acting regularly that could have helped to transition into an adult actor?
Wow. You know what? For the other children or for me?
I mean, maybe what you've seen. I mean, you seem to have done it well.
I was going to say, for me, my foundation is my home. Mm-hmm. My mama taught me real early, real quick, the only stars in this world are in the sky because they're untouchable. She said, your ass is touchable.
Hello.
Which kept me, I'm sorry, I don't know if I get cussed, but which kept me in line. I have a Black mama and she wasn't playing no games. Mm-hmm. I was not living her dream. I was doing what I wanted to do. And I think that makes a huge difference too. When I look at the whole thing of child star go bad, it kind of sits weird with me because we all went to school with somebody who ended up on drugs, right? Mm-hmm. We all went to school with someone who ended up on a pole. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference just because this person is an actor and that person that we went to school with wasn't? You don't know how anybody is going to end up or what they're going through at home. Mm-hmm. So I think it first starts with your foundation and what your goals were. Fame has never been a goal for me. Mm-hmm. I am in entertainment to this day for two reasons. One, my mental health. Yeah. My family would think I was insane if I didn't work. I'd be in the bathroom talking to myself, answering, crying, just to see if I could keep my skills up.
I love you said talking and answering.
Yes, talking and answering. They
fun to myself. I ain't ignoring me.
They would be like, something is wrong with baby girl. We need to get her help. Yeah. And two, I like to pay my bills now.
Right.
After 38 years, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think the basic thing about smooth transitioning is parents, stop living your dreams vicariously through your children. Mm. You know, being an actor is not a dream job. and a 6-year-old.
Say it again, so these people who don't
being
know.
An actress is not a dream. It's a job.
It is work. It is. Yes. It is a real job.
I work 18 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah.
And when I act and produce, I don't get that 12-hour turnaround time. So it's not a 9 to 5.
That's right.
You don't know when your next job is going to be. Don't push your kids into that unless your kid wants that. I asked for it. Uh-huh. So my mother was feeding my interest, but I see a lot of the kids who had problems because I grew up with them.
Yeah.
Their parents were the ones who said you can only have half of a sandwich instead of a whole sandwich because you might get fat. Mm. You know, they were having a bad moment and their parents would be like, smile for the camera and be nice.
Be happy. You better straighten your face.
So they were living the life that their parents wanted them to have. And I'm rebellious.
Yeah.
You can't try to make me do anything I ain't want to do.
Hello. What effect has the pandemic had on Black Hollywood? You know, you hear things and everybody says, oh, you know, we're not making money and everybody was living from check to check before. And what effect have you seen the pandemic have on Black Hollywood?
You know what? It's so funny that you say Black Hollywood. I don't really know too much about Black Hollywood. They haven't really hired me a lot. So when it comes to like, you know, even I did Family Matters, it's a Black show. Yeah. But all of our producers were white. Right. You know, The Parkers was a Black show, but I only did 3 episodes. I never got hired by the Tyler Perrys or the Robbie Reeds or the Aisha Cooleys. I'm just not, I guess, that cool. But I hear that Black Hollywood is suffering because the pay is different. You know, I have done some Black.
Tell us about that.
The pay, you know, usually it's coming from some independent funders and they're making films for $100,000, $200,000. What people don't realize is a lot of these Black films that you guys are watching on like Amazon Prime and stuff, they work under a SAG ultra low budget contract. Some of these actors are getting paid $150 a day. Cherie Johnson I ain't gonna do it. So right. I won't work for $150 a day, but you're making the same as you would somebody who's working in a hotel as a front desk operator or, you know, as a housekeeper. They're basically, after taxes, they're making their $85, $90 a day, depending upon their deductibles.
Wow.
So yes, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're hurting right now. And one of the problems with Black Hollywood is a lot of us, and I'll put me in the category, but thank God I'm not, living beyond our means. They're
image.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're so worried about keeping up this persona that they have to have their Mercedes, and they're keeping up their Gucci and their Louis, and now they've gotten themselves stuck in these mortgages or these apartments, because a lot of them living in apartments in LA, let's get real, and still driving these Mercedes.
Yeah.
And it's, do I pay the $1,500 car note, or do I pay the $2,100 rent? And they can't afford to do both.
And you add to that who you have to pay out before you get paid, right? Oh. Your agent, your manager, whoever else has their hand in the pot, right? Like you could have more than one agent. You could have more than one man. It might be somebody for commercials, somebody for television, somebody for stage. Yeah, there are a lot of people that get paid out before we do.
A lot of people don't understand that. Like me, I have an agent. I do have a manager. My manager only gets paid if they give me the job.
Right.
You got to negotiate your deals.
Right.
So I have an agent that takes 10%. If my manager gets me the job and my manager and agent negotiated, that's 20% of my money gone before I ever get it. And then a lot of these people don't realize that this is a game. So when the paparazzi shows up, it's not an incident. It's a job that they created. So that there's a PR person calling ahead of time. Well, that PR person a lot of time is getting paid 5% of the actor's money. So that's 25% that is being taken. And then you might have a business manager who usually takes around 3 to 5%. So that's 30% of people's money that is being taken before they ever get paid.
And then Uncle Sam gets his chunk off your original amount. That's
right.
Off your gross, Uncle Sam gets his money.
So just think about it. If you're making the $92, $95 a day working on these Black Hollywood low budget movies,
yeah.
That means that you've already spent most of your money. You're coming home with $40. Is it worth it?
Well, if that's where your heart is.
Everybody's got that number, like you said.
Everybody's got a number. We all draw a line somewhere. So this is very interesting because you're an actor, you're a producer, you're a writer, but you're also an author. And not only are you an author, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you own a publishing company.
Yes, I had to.
Tell me about that. How does one decide, hey, you know what, I need a publishing company?
You know, I got into this deal like a lot of us do. I was green. I didn't know anything about the book deal I had signed. It seemed good on paper. The publishing company family was really nice and supportive. I didn't make no money. I'm not in the business of doing anything that's not going to make me some money. Yeah. So I got in, I learned, and I turned it around and used it for my own benefit. I was like, you know what? I signed over my rights for this book. They ain't did nothing. Not set up a book signing, not got my stuff in stores. I'm making these phone calls. I was doing all the work. So why am I not getting no money off my book? I never made the mistake again. I got out of my contract. I filled out my little paperwork that I had to do, started my little LLC, and I started my own publishing company.
Yeah. And you've published what, 3 books since then?
Yes.
Look at God.
And I'm about to publish another one at the end of the year. My daughter came to me and told me that her uncle is illustrating her children's book, and it's actually good. So I will be publishing her book by the end of the year.
There's a lesson right there, right? So not only were you creating a foundation for yourself, but now you're going to create some generational wealth. And even if it's not about the money, you are instilling in your child how you can do for yourself. And you don't have to go out there and sell your product to someone else for them to sell it for you. You can eliminate the middleman.
Absolutely. You know, there's avenues now, like Amazon and just online.
Yeah.
And social media. So I'm going to let her get a little taste of what it's like. And it was a hard sell for me. I've actually been putting off her book for 3 years, but now she's on the computer and she typed it up herself. Mm-hmm. And she has her own little email address. And I didn't realize what I was doing because she didn't come to me. She sat on her computer one day, all day, on FaceTime with her uncle. And he talked her through it, and she typed up her little manuscript and sent it to him. So they started this project without me being in the mix. It wasn't me, wasn't daddy. We ain't had no say so. It was her and her uncle.
Now look how history repeats itself. Your uncle gave you your start, and now her uncle is doing that for her.
Absolutely.
That's that full circle.
Full circle.
Full circle. Congratulations. That's beautiful. Now, how old is your daughter?
6.
6. Already an author. I love it.
Well, she actually wrote the book, which is really weird. My daughter is very intelligent. Mm-hmm. She wrote the book when she was 18 months old. And we thought it was a joke.
Tell me more. I want to hear about this.
We didn't know that she could read. That's how it started.
At 18 months, she could read?
She was reading. We went to Sam's Club, and she was in the cart, and my mom was pushing. And she looked at me, and she said, Mom, can I have Airheads? And I said, what are Airheads? Because I don't eat candy. And she said, right there, Airheads, and sounded it out to me. And I turned around, and I said, did you read that? And she looked at me and said, duh. And I said, what? And my mom said, anything you can read, you can have. So she started going. Snickers. I won't just keep naming stuff, but she was naming brand after brand after brand. After $400, I told my mom, hey, you got to stop. You know what I'm saying? We can't keep filling up this cart. There's like 95 candy bars in here. Like,
have you had her tested, like to see if she's like genius level?
I've had her tested. She's going into the 4th grade. She's definitely advanced.
At 6?
At 6. The first time I had her tested, she was 3, and she was a 7-year-old is what they said. She was like ample to a 7-year-old, and right now she's like 9 and 10-year-old.
Now, so is this the same daughter that I read about that you almost delivered very early at like 14 weeks, and you had to have the procedure, and then you were on bed rest for 7 months? This is that same miracle baby?
Yes, this is my baby. I went into labor at 14 weeks and didn't realize what was happening. I thought I was having Braxton Hicks pains, because that's what they told me, that, oh, you're probably just spreading, da, 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 da. I went in for my checkup, normally like I would, and my doctor very seriously said, get dressed and come in my office. Well, I had never been pregnant. I never had a kid. I didn't know what to expect. He told me that I needed to have emergency surgery or I was going to lose her. And I was hesitant because I was like, emergency surgery, what does that mean? He said that I was in active labor and my cervix was opening. And if she was born, she would probably be born with cerebral palsy because her lungs weren't fully developed. So she would have to have a trach and she would probably be in a wheelchair the rest of her life. And I said, well, okay, that's what happens if I don't have the surgery. Can you break my water back having the surgery? And he looked at me and he said, I'm gonna be very honest with you. You have 50-50 chance. 50% chance I'm gonna break your water bag. 50% chance that she's gonna be born and not be healthy. So either way, you're probably gonna lose her. And I told him, okay, let me think about it. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, I need to think about it. He said, well, I want you to go now. And I said, I'll go first thing in the morning. And he thought I was crazy, but I had to go home. I had to pray. I had to talk about it. Yeah. I had to see where my head was. And we went back first thing in the morning and had the surgery. And thank God. That was one of the reasons why I didn't do the whole Hollywood, oh, I'm having a baby. Yeah. Because after he came and he did my cerclage, he went in the room and he told my family, you know, the baby might make it now, but we're not sure that she will, because they couldn't stop my contractions. So my daughter was actually trying to come patch my stitches. I ended up on heart meds for 7 months. I'm fine. She came a day before her due date. All that mess that she started.
Well, she's brilliant. So if you think about it, technically, had she come that early, she'd probably just be right on schedule now. I mean, if you're 6 and you're operating on a 4th grade level, you clearly were advanced in the womb.
Yes, I was worried this year. I homeschool. And because of
before the pandemic, even you were homeschooling?
I had no choice. You can't send a 6, you can't send. She told me at 3 she was ready to start school. So I started with the preschool stuff. She went through it in 3 months. So then we moved on. She self-paces. So I am not forcing her. I don't make her do anything. Her education is fully self-driven. We have a teacher who guides us. Andrea, who is her aunt. And then she has another aunt who's a principal. And then one of my brothers is a principal at an international school in Singapore. So she's kind of working with a mixture of curriculum. She's basically going off of Massachusetts curriculum because Massachusetts has one of the best school systems in our nation. They're number one. And she tells me what she wants to learn and when she wants to learn. And it is so funny how it falls in line with where she's supposed to be.
Is she doing Singapore math?
She is doing a little bit of Singapore math, but she also doing old school math because mama's teaching her.
Old school.
I literally had to sit down with my brother for 2 hours the other day and was like, how do I divide fractions? How do I
bar models?
Yeah, I didn't remember.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I got to do this. So it's going to be fun this year. We'll see how far I can get.
It sounds like it. Now, I also saw that you are an advocate for young readers too, right? Don't you do work with early literacy?
Yes, take time to read is one of the reasons why it prompted me to write my children's book. Because I started doing the research before I had my kid. I knew I was ready to be a mommy. So I was like preparing to be mommy. Yeah. And I started doing research about how many words kids learn from just reading 20 minutes a day and how to have your kids fall. I was in love with books my whole life. I'm still in love with books. But how, you know, your kids follow in your footsteps. If they see mommy reading, they will read too. You would be surprised. I went out to Venice Beach one day and I asked adults, excuse me, do you read to your children? Excuse me, do you read? People would say, no, I don't read, and keep moving. And I would say, excuse me, do you read or do you watch TV? What is your activity with your kids? And 90% of people don't read to their children. And that was heartbreaking. And then I started breaking it down per demographics. And I was very shocked. It also depends on where you live, because my East Coast people do read. Yeah. My East Coast Black community are huge readers and they read to their children. Yep. Unfortunately, surprisingly, in Los Angeles, which you would think is more affluent, in neighborhoods where they have more money, they do not.
They hire people. And did you know now, so there's an artificial intelligence program called Amira. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So Amira is artificial intelligence where she's a tutor, will read with your child as a tutor and prompts them where they need help. And then she monitors and measures their growth as they move forward. So now if parents don't have that time, it's a good time to start looking at programs like Amira to really advance their student learning, especially at a time like this. You should look into it. Your baby.
Does Amira do math? That's what I want to know.
Amira don't do math. She's she's reading. If you ask Alexa, she can answer any of your math problems.
I was going to say, I need somebody to do math. Reading is really like, that's her strong point. Reading and science. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This kid is like amazing.
So tell me this. You started Cherie's World podcast. Tell me why. What prompted that?
Okay, so I had to take a leave of absence. I was doing this show called The Bottom Line Sports Show with Gerald Brown, Penny Hardaway, and Charles Oakley before I got pregnant. And I had to step away once I got pregnant because life changed. I was on bed rest. My boss was crazy and I couldn't do no stress. And I did an interview with this guy. And the guy that I did the interview with is now the producer of Cherie's World podcast. His name is Courtney. And Courtney said, you know what? I really think that people are interested in hearing what you have to say. And you have great stories. Why don't you do your own podcast? And I said on air, okay, produce it. And he thought I was joking. So he sent the follow-up email, you know, thank you so much for giving me your time and doing the show. And I said, so when are we going to start ours?
Oh.
And it started.
And how long have you been doing the podcast?
It's been 1 year and 6 months.
Look at there. Excellent. And you all, how often do you put out a new show?
Every Wednesday.
So once a week, your podcast goes out. It's called Cherie's World.
Cherie's World podcast. We are blessed. We have 180,000 listeners who are there with us every Wednesday, and we're growing. And I'm so pleased. I really wanted to do something that was not done. I've been in the business for a long time. I've had the opportunity to grace such wonderful people. I want them to see a different side of them. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily get nosy and all up in their business because I don't do gossip.
Yeah.
But I really have great rapport with a lot of people, and I really adore tons of people. So some people are asking me, well, why don't you interview this person? Or why don't you? I don't know them.
Right.
I really
So you stay close to your friends, folks you know well.
Yeah, I've been trying to go around Cherie's world.
Yeah.
Because I do realize that my journey in this industry is not like everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just kind of taking people through my journey.
So when you think about your journey in this business, so you've been in the business, what, 4 decades now, almost, right?
38 years. It'll be 39 years next month.
30, so 3 full decades and one more on the way. When you think, would you have done anything differently? Would you change anything?
No, because if I would have changed I wouldn't change anything in my life at all. Because if I changed anything, I would not be right here, right now, today.
Yeah. Would you say that it's all worth it?
Absolutely. You know what's worth it to me is my happiness. I can honestly say I've done everything I wanted to do. I'm not saying it's over because I got goals, okay? When your goals is complete, you going. I still got a lot of stuff to do, but I've gotten a chance to live on my own accord, if that makes sense. There hasn't been agents who have puppeteered me, to force me or guide me to do things that I wasn't happy with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interviews that I just sat home because I felt like sitting home.
Yeah. What's next? What's your next? What's your goal? What's in your eyesight?
By October, I used to have a hairline out, and by October we're rebranding it. And Wild Cherry will be back out. It's an all-natural hair product that constitutes growth. Because what we didn't know a long time ago, my hairdresser used to put stuff in my hair to make my hair smell like cherries when my hair used to go like crazy. Most of y'all done saw I did this show with Tamar called The Kitchen Beautician, and I had this woman burn my hair out, and I was devastated. And I was like, okay, my hair was almost down to my butt, and I was like, what am I gonna do? I cut it off. I had this cute little high-low that I didn't want at first, but ended up really liking. But I went back to my old school routine, which was my own hair products, and my hair started growing. My high-low evened out on its own. And now it's back down here already. Okay. So we're going to put it in some bottles again and make it do what it do.
And it's called Wild Cherry?
It's called Wild Cherry because Cherry used to. Thank you. I used to be wild. I done settled down a lot.
I mean, even at our age, I think we are neck and neck. And don't let your wild child die, honey. We still got years ahead of us.
Thank you. Well, my wild child is just different now. You know, it used to be in the club. Now it's outside on the swing set and on a trampoline or something.
And it's writing books, and it's acting, and it's producing, and it's rebooting.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited.
Are you excited?
I'm going to get Soleil into so much trouble. She doesn't even know what's coming.
Now, when can we expect to see it? Do we know when it's going to drop?
You got to ask COVID.
So as soon as stuff gets, is it in the can though? Have you finished the pilot?
We have the pilot in the can, but we need to go back and finish our season.
Oh, okay. So they're going to finish the season, obviously, before you even release the first one, I imagine, huh?
I have no idea. I mean, we're unemployed like everybody else right now. They done pushed our dates back twice. We're hoping that our new dates will stick. I'm looking forward to getting my friend in all kind of trouble.
That's so exciting.
I am.
I hope she's open to that.
You know what? She don't got no choice. That's her homie. We need to do some things. We both are raising children and being good people. We need to just spend like a little bit of time remembering who we were before we have kids.
It's been fun actually seeing a lot of the really good shows from the 80s reboot, right? Come back and do even the 90s, but to see the shows come back and they be just as good as they were the first time. So I expect nothing less from Punky Brewster.
Thank you. We're praying. I think that you'll love it.
I think that I will too. Let me tell you, I used to watch religiously. Like that was my jam. That was my show. So I'm sure I'll be tied to the cameras just like I was before.
Thank you. Our characters definitely, like, representation matters. We all represent something and somebody, and we're women.
Yeah.
So through women, people forget like our lives are really synonymous.
I was going to ask you about that. When you look at the roles that are out there for women right now, very specifically for African American women, are you seeing stuff that's encouraging? Are scripts coming across your desk that are more along with the lines of the type of work you would like to do, or is it kind of the same old, same old?
It's the same old, honestly. What I can say is that Hollywood's very political. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you realize, but like reality shows started when we had Obama in office. We can't have too many great heroic figures at one time. They're not going to allow it. So that's when the messiness starts. I'm praying that Trump will get out of office soon and somebody will feel obligated to do an uplifting, because that's what we need, an uplifting of positive characters, an uplifting of characters who are in power positions, but we just haven't been in a place in this country where they will let us be in power positions.
And in addition to empowered, we need to be reunited, right? Like somebody's got to do a very good job about bringing this country back together and moving all of this division, like filling this gap that exists.
Absolutely. The only chance we have a Black love right now on TV is a show called Blackish.
Let me tell you something. I love me some Blackish.
But that's our only Black family.
Yeah.
We need some Black love back in this world.
Well, and I also feel like we've got to get to a place where you will show an African American woman in a heterosexual relationship with a man who loves her and is kind to her, and that we are not unicorns.
Absolutely.
Right? We don't see that anymore. I mean, we see all different types of love, but that's the one image that they just don't show anymore.
No, because they don't want you to know that it exists. They don't want you to know that there are 400,000 Black men in college at any given time. Mm-hmm. They'd rather talk about the Black men who are in prison, because that empowers a certain group of people.
Right.
So it's what I would love to have, like different worlds, come back where we got a young Black college show.
Let me tell you something. I tell people all the time that one of the reasons I chose everybody in my family went to HBCUs, but it was definitely on my radar to go to an HBCU because of Hillman. You know what I mean? So Hampton, where I went, is Hillman, for anybody who has any ideas about that. But it was such a good standard to look up to, right? To say, hey, this is available to me, and it's going to be a wonderful experience, and I'll get to be around other like-minded, really uplifting Black people. And you know what? We're smart, and we're funny, and we're kind, right? I want to see that golden age of television come back.
And we hold power positions.
We hold power positions.
We don't all, we're not all actors. We're not all athletes. We are doctors and attorneys and CEOs and accountants. They don't show that because they don't want kids to know.
Right. You're right.
Real estate agents, real estate investors, they don't show that.
We are bankers. We are scientists. We are astronauts. We are fighter pilots. Have you seen the young lady in Texas? We are what are y'all?
Fire pilots. Absolutely. Yes, but they don't show it. But you know what? They will.
Oh yeah, we're coming back. One of the things I do as a writer is I try to make it my goal to write culturally responsive and responsible media, so that when my people, who I believe are all people, watch a show, you're seeing folks uplifted. You're seeing them in positive lights. You're seeing real things that happen in life, but you're also seeing it from a place that there is hope, there is goodness. And when you watch television, you can see a mirror and a window, right? Mm-hmm. You see that opportunity and you see yourself reflected in a positive light. And that's what I hope television turns into.
I hope so too. And I hope that Black women, it's okay to pass on a job.
Yes, it is.
Because when you find your power and you pass, they're going to realize, why does nobody want to play this?
Right, right. My mother used to always say, all money ain't good money.
I got that same lesson. Cicely Tyson actually sat me down when I was a little girl. She played my mother. And she said something so important to me. Of course, I did not understand that time. I was a kid. She said, don't ever do anything you don't want your grandma to see.
Hello?
She said, I played a housekeeper, so you don't have to.
That is the truth. If I ever heard it, that is the truth. I love Miss Tyson. She goes to my church. I love her.
She does?
Yes.
If you see her, will you please tell her? I don't even know if she reminds me of this little child named Cherie Johnson, still got the earrings that she gave her. And I absolutely hold every piece of knowledge that she gave to me close to my heart.
Well, when we get back into church, I pray I will be able to see her. You know, it makes me think when you say that, I have a dear friend of mine. He was a director in LA for a long, long time. And he said to me when I was first starting out, and he was kind of just starting out himself. His name is Tim Folsom. He's a director. He said to me, don't you ever let money be the reason why you do or don't do anything.
Absolutely.
And I've never forgotten that.
Absolutely. And it's so important to have those people to drop that little dime in your ear. Mm-hmm. Because I get it. Some actors do. They're out in LA and they're like, well, if I don't do this, I can't pay my rent.
Right.
There's always another way. There's always another hustle.
That's right. That's right. We can't be too desperate.
No.
Well, Miss Cherie Johnson, you have dropped some knowledge and some nuggets on us tonight. We want to thank you for teaching the people. Thank you so much. Now, tell me before we go, where can people find you? Where can we find your podcast? How do we follow you? How do we stay in touch?
You can find anything about me. If you on social media, all you got to do is look up Cherie Johnson 75. If the 75 ain't behind my name, it ain't me.
Now, what 75, that's our year?
Well, that's the year I was born, you know what I'm saying? But not only that, like I'm a Steeler fan, and that was Mean Joe Green's number.
Girl.
All day, every day.
I was with you till right there. Because see, I'm from Atlanta, so you know.
Oh.
The Falcons is where it's at.
Well, I kind of dated one of those, and
okay.
he ruined that.
He ruined.
I'll tell you about that off camera.
One bad apple. You don't let him spoil the whole bunch.
He had a little sugar in his tank. That's a whole nother episode. We can talk about that too. I didn't know. I
have a very good editor. That's our special series that we're going to do about dating in America. That's funny. She said, I didn't know.
I didn't know. You don't have to cut it out. I didn't know. He told me after like 6 months.
That's like an Elin Harris book. Remember those books? Remember they came out in like the 90s? Remember Basil?
Yes. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was all caught up in the house and everything. I didn't know.
Lord have mercy. Well, you live and learn.
And now I understand why the pants I bought him his homeboy was borrowed.
That what?
Yes. He had his boyfriend was wearing his clothes. I know. I ain't even.
Let me stop, because you don't never know. At least yours told you. Probably got half of them laughing at me like, girl, you didn't know.
I think he felt bad for me because I was too young. I guess I was supposed to figure it out.
That is a whole nother episode. Well, listen, I thank you and I appreciate you. And you got to come back on the show. And I want everybody to follow me, subscribe to my page on YouTube, and go over and check out Cherie's World Podcast. It is very good. You can see many of the stars that you remember seeing on television in the 90s and even currently today, and find out what they're doing. And they're dropping some nuggets. They're talking over there. I watched several episodes and I learned a great deal. So I want y'all to all check it out. And remember to come back next week for another episode of, come on, Cherie, Teach the People. You guys say teach the people.
I am Cherie Johnson, and you were watching Teach the People.
Well, that was a wonderful conversation with Cherie Johnson. I hope that you will remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and come back next week for another episode of Teach the People with your host, Areshia. Until then, remember, each one, teach one.